Hi, thanks for stopping by our channel today. I'm Pete, and today we're going to kind of do a recap of how this summer has gone for us. I haven't really made any gardening or working on the old truck videos lately. This summer has been quite busy. We've had family from out of state come in to visit, and we went to the NASCAR race. So hopefully you guys saw the video of the hauler parade from Sonoma Speedway. And we've just had one thing after another. And so this has been a very busy summer. This is the beginning of August now. It's the first weekend of August. And as you can see, a lot of our garden is gone. This summer has been a very cool summer. I've never seen a summer so cool as this year. I think later this week it's going to be in the 90s. And that's only the second time this summer that we've seen the 90s. Normally, where we live, May, June, July, and the beginning of August is some of the hottest months. And we're usually in the 90s throughout the whole time, and even dabbling with into the hundreds. So this year, it's been very mild. Last week was the first week that we actually had 80s all week. So I like it. I like the warmer weather, but yeah, this has been kind of cool. And because of that, our plants, you can always read how things are going by reading the plants. And we had our two crooknecks up here, and we probably got 10 to 15 crookneck squash off of them. And then just like our cucumbers here, the leaves just start to die off, and you don't see any more flowers, so you know it's not going to produce anything else. And then our zucchinis have all given up. We've probably gotten 40 pounds of zucchini this year. So even though our harvest is shortened, the amount that we got, we're still pretty good. And then these five, where I'm sitting, and then these three here, these are the cucumbers that are still in the ground. But there again, like I said, there's no new flowers, so it's not producing. So I figured what I would do, there's a couple I've been watching, and there's one of them, kind of small, but I don't know if you can see on the camera, but the top it started turning a little lighter, which tells me that that's pretty much as big as it's going to get. And then I think we have another one up in here somewhere. Yep, right there. So not too bad. We had a pretty good harvest of cucumbers this year. We put them up as different pickles. We tried to grow dill in our herb garden this year, but it just didn't take. So we really aren't going to do any dill pickles, but we have a really good recipe that we make our own bread and butter pickles. So those are really good. I like them, and pretty much everyone here likes them. So it's kind of nice to make your own pickles and then put them up, because you can have them for the rest of the year. And a lot of the vegetables that we grow, we produce into different things. We've done apricot jam. We got a great big bag of plums from one of our friends, so we made plum jam. Our strawberry has been doing pretty well, so I think once we're done with all of this, we'll probably make some strawberry jam. And right here, these plants right here in front, these are pumpkins. So we started them back in May in a little garden, but now that these are going out, we're going to let all of the branches kind of take over this area. So with that said, we've got these 2 cucumbers and some of the tomatoes. Our tomatoes are still booming. And for you that have grown tomatoes before, you know that when you get tomatoes, you get lots of tomatoes. So we have lots of tomatoes still coming, but we are going to go ahead and take out these other cucumber plants. Like I said, there's just no more there's no more flowers, so we know that they're not going to produce anymore. And we're just going to make some more room for the pumpkins to grow. Gotta be careful not to step on our pumpkin plants. And even on our tomatoes, we don't really have any new flowers growing. So this whole thing, this whole branch here, I'm just going to take because there's no flowers on it. Here's our pumpkin, so we're going to be careful with that. There we go. This is our other, we've got 2 more of the cucumbers. Yeah, typically we don't really start ripping things out into October. So it's kind of unusual to have things coming out this early. But once they stop growing and stop flowering, you know that there's just not much else coming. There we go. All right. All right. So here's our pumpkin. We're just going to let that kind of lay out that way. This is a tomato. Yeah, we got one little green tomato right there. But for the most part, our tomatoes have been very well producing this year. We've probably got 50 to 60 pounds of tomatoes. And these 2 up here that my friend gave me, they're called Berkeley tie-dye. I've never heard of them, but they're super sweet tomatoes. Here, I think there's one right here that's kind of ripe. Yep. It's a very nice tomato. And they're very, very sweet. We made a whole bunch of tomato soup out of the tomatoes. We were planning on doing ketchup, but we decided to do tomato soup instead. So we've probably got 15 jars of tomato soup that we made, which will pay dividends in the fall and in the winter when it's cold. And we're looking for something to eat to warm up. It'll be nice to have some homemade tomato soup. We used tomato, and then from our herb garden, we used some of our basil. It tasted really good as we put it all up. So the tomatoes we still have going, and then the 2 Berkeley tie-dyed. All the green beans are gone. Pretty much everything's gone in this plot other than the 6 tomatoes. And you can see that they're still booming, but there really isn't any flowers forming on the ends. So here in just a little bit, I'll bring the camera in and kind of lay out on the table everything that we've put up this year. And you can see how the harvest has gone. I'm hoping that the pumpkins turn out. We've got 2 batches of pumpkins. We've got 1 row of pumpkins from a pumpkin from last year that my son got for Halloween. And we kept it and got the seeds out of it and overwintered the seeds last year. And we've planted them, and they're growing pretty well. And then we also have 1 row of field pumpkins that we bought from the place we get all of our heirloom seeds from. So yeah, it's kind of, like I said, it's the first weekend of August. It's kind of disappointing to have this season start to come to a close this year, but every year is different. We had 1 year that we were still harvesting things into the first week of November. But this year, we'll just have to see how the weather goes, because, for the plants always tell you what's going on. The earth never lies, and it's, people that are in tune with it can kind of read what's happening with, how the weather's going to be this fall and this winter. It'll be interesting to see, but I kind of have a feeling that maybe we're going to have an early fall and an early winter. And it'd be nice if we had a wet winter. So anyway, I'll do that. We'll take the camera in, and I'll show you kind of our harvest. And then it's kind of towards the end of the day. I wanted to get this going today, but I was kind of waiting for the light to get right so you could actually see what's going on here. And so tomorrow morning we'll probably go down and I'll show you what we've been doing. We haven't really gotten anywhere with the tractor. Well, I'm trying to find a new flywheel for it, so that once we have the flywheel, I'll have it machined, so that once we separate the engine from the transmission, we can just do it all at once, put the new flywheel in, put the clutch in, and then put it back together all in one day. The guy that I bought the tractor from seems to think that there's a dead spot in the ring gear on the flywheel, all the little teeth that the starter engages with. So, I think I just want to replace the flywheel. And then that way we can do it all in one day. So that, like I said, we really haven't done anything to the tractor. We have gotten some more work done on the International, the back of the cab on the inside. We've gotten pretty much all the body work done. There's still a little section on the interior that I've got to finish up. Originally, there's a gas filler that, the gas filler tube comes up on the outside of the cab, and then it goes through the cab down under the cab into the gas tank. So since we're not using that gas tank, we're patching the pieces. We're making pieces to cover the holes where the tube used to go through. So I've got the inside done, and we've just got to finish some, body filler there. And then hopefully this week we will get to the paint store and get some paint to paint the whole back of the cab, on the inside, the back of the cab, and that will complete all the paint for the interior. Once we have the paint work done, then we can put the Dynamat in. We're going to do some sealer, that aerosol, that black aerosol paint, if you remember. We're going to do that under some of the Dynamat areas. There's really no rust, but just to make sure that nothing develops in what is there, we're going to seal all that and then put the Dynamat over it. And then we'll put the seat in. I know I mentioned a couple videos ago that we got the upholstery back, the seat back from the upholsterer. So we'll be able to put that in, and then we'll put the back window in, and that will seal up the cab. Once that's done, then we can start on the outside of the cab. We've got the right front fender. We'll go over the hood. There's one little hole in the hood. It looked like somebody tried to mount some kind of hood ornament on it. So we've got to weld that up, and then we'll get into the left fender, get that all buttoned up, and then we'll get into the cab, the outside of the cab. So anyway, like I said, there was quite a bit of catching up. I wanted to catch up with you guys, but it's this summer has kind of gone by super fast. Miss Becky is a school teacher, so during the summer she has a long list of things she wants to get done, and some trips and vacations. We took the camper out, went camping. We don't really, as far as going places, going on vacation, we don't really go anywhere extravagant. We have a camper trailer we like taking out and just having a make some s'mores by the campfire type of thing. So maybe one of the nights that we do that, we've got another camp coming up in October, right before Halloween. So maybe I'll make a little bit of a video, or maybe, I don't know, maybe even a short of just sitting around the campfire and making s'mores. All right, so let's wrap this up. I'm going to put all this in the compost pile. I've got to water. I'm going to water this, and then I'll meet you inside, and we'll kind of go over some of the things that we've put up this year. So like I said, this was kind of an early end to a lot of our gardening this year. It's kind of odd, but this is just a portion of some of the things we put up. We have a lot of stuff already put up and in the basement on the shelves. So this is just kind of the last batches of everything. One thing that I really liked was in our herb garden, we had mint. And as a kid, I used to have mint jelly. And it's kind of, a lot of people haven't ever had mint jelly. If you have, put it in the comments below. Tell me how much you love mint jelly. So we put up, I don't know, 5 of these. Mint jelly goes really good on just about everything. Becky says that you could put it on anything, it would make it better. And I don't disagree. But it's really good on pork chops, chicken, ham, stuff like that. Kind of the whiter meats, not the darker meats. But and it's super easy to grow. Mint grows like a weed in our herb garden. It's taken over the whole tray, and it's super easy to make. You just boil it. You take a bunch of the mint leaves and you boil it, and then you strain out the leaves, and with the water you mix that in with the pectin, and it sets up really good. And then mint jelly actually is clear. So you got to put green food dye in it to make it green. But other than that, we have, we've put up zucchinis and crookneck squash. We put up a bunch of tomatoes. I always like, out of the cucumbers, I like making bread and butter pickles. Those are just really yummy. We have, somebody gave us a whole bunch of plums. So we put up a bunch of plum jam. And then we also, in different sizes, so we have small, medium, and large tomato soup. And the tomato soup worked really well from those big round tomatoes, the ones we grew first time this year, called the Berkeley tie-dye tomatoes. They're kind of mushy for like BLTs or burgers, but they make really good soup, and their flavor is really, really good. We mixed in a bunch of the Roma tomatoes, and that gave it a little more thickness, a little more pulp. But the tomato soup turned out fantastic. We also have different sizes of our apricot jam, apricot jelly. This is more apricot. I think all of this is apricot. We had a pretty good harvest of apricots this year. One thing to keep in mind whenever you put up, and believe me, I learned this the hard way. A couple of years ago, I put up some zucchinis and some crookneck, and I just cut them and put them in and sealed them up. The problem with soft flesh vegetables is that as they just sit in water, they turn to water. So when you take them out, you can't really use them. You can put them in zucchini bread, but even that, it's just kind of mush. So before you put up anything like that, make sure you parboil them. That kind of sets up the structure. And same thing with potatoes. If you're gonna freeze potatoes, we all of our potatoes, we had a really good harvest of potatoes this year. I think we still have one more bucket that is still going, but all the rest of them are gone. But parboil the potatoes, and then also we did it with the green beans too. Green beans freeze really good, and we did a parboil in those, but kind of I think it was like 4 or 5 minutes, just something super quick. We also started. I had a red onion that we'd bought at the store, and I know a lot of store-bought onions don't really produce. They're grown to be big, but not reproduce. This one, where we buy, it's supposed to be heirloom, so they will grow. So this is the last batch. There's 3 little onionettes there. But the big thing we wanted was the seed heads. So I'll put a picture in here. The seed heads produce a whole lot of seeds. And so we're going to grow a lot more onions, red onions next year. I like red onions. They're sweet. They're good in potato salad. They're good on burgers. It just, they go well with a lot of different things. So our herbs are going really well still. The tomato soup, we used our own oregano in, and that was the fresh tomatoes and the fresh oregano. Oh man, that was fantastic. And then, like I said, with the mint. The raspberries and the strawberries are booming. They're probably going to go, into maybe even early November. They always do every year. The heat makes them produce more. So we've had a decent crop this year, not a bumper crop, but it really, because we had a mild summer, but we had enough heat that the strawberries and the raspberries are going good. We're expecting in the next few weeks to be up in the 90s and maybe even in the hundreds. So that's kind of this time of the year, kind of more normal for us here. Maybe not so much hundreds, but definitely in the 90s, and that helps a lot of the vegetables grow. And I think these that have kind of shut off early knew that it probably wasn't going to be an extended heat, and that the summer was kind of starting to wrap up early this year. All right, so like I said, this is just part of everything what we got this year. It was really good. I always like putting up our own food. You know, we can eat all this stuff all winter long and have somewhat fresh vegetables and jams and jellies, and we have salsa tomatoes. We diced them, left them kind of chunky so we can make homemade salsa. We have last year we had a whole bunch of jalapenos, so we parboiled those and we make jars of salsa, which is really good. And then with these onions, we'll drop those in there too. All right, let's get outside and check out the International. We've gotten some stuff done this summer, but the inside of the cab has been pretty much all done. So the cab is 2 sheets. So it's got an outer skin and an inner skin. And the inner skin was kind of all beat up because it was laying on its back, and everything inside, you know, all the weeds and, you know, critters and everything. So that was kind of pretty well beat up. So we've got the body work done on the inside sheet metal, keeping in mind that it's double walled. And it's pretty much ready to paint. We we have one little patch that we still have to work on, but let me show you. All right, so we got a lot of this. The finish sanding is pretty much done. That part hasn't changed much since the last time you saw this, so that's ready to paint. What did change was this piece here. I had it pretty much where it is now, but it didn't, when I went to lay in that little piece of metal to cover over where the gas filler pipe came in, it didn't lay flat enough. And so when I started working with it, the metal was it was pivoting. So it turned out, let me zoom this in just a little bit. There was a buckle that went from here down to here. So I had to take the metal piece out, and then I stripped all of this back down and metal finished all of that to get it flat and get that buckle out. There's still a little bit you can see right there that I still need to, a high spot right there I need to get rid of. But once that's done, then I can do finish filler on this and then start the finish sanding on it. So the next week, within the next week, I'm hoping to have that done. And our next video will be painting the back of this cab. And then this is all just surface rust. So we're going to do a rough sand on that and then do the rust encapsulator paint on it. And then do some of the sound deadening, the Dynamat here on the floor. And once that's done, then we can put the back window in and we can put the seat in. And I know you guys haven't seen the seat yet, but maybe I'll put a little teaser right here and see what you think about that. All right, so thank you for sticking with this video. I really appreciate your time, and I just saw that we're up to 200 subscribers. It blows my mind. I'm so thankful to all of you that have subscribed. It kind of documents our path to having a small farm. I know there's a lot of people that are thinking of doing the same thing. So our path, I think we're kind of doing it a little more slowly. But because of that, we're able to work on building the infrastructure so that when we get to the farm, we'll own everything outright. And like with the tractor, it'll be done. The farm truck will be done. And some of the implements, you know, here coming up, I'm going to start tearing into either the straight blade or the disc. And we're going to tear it down, rebuild it with the disc. We'll put all new bearings in it, check out the discs themselves, make sure that they're solid, so that when it does come to it, you know, the time where we're moving on to the farm, we'll own all this stuff and we won't have to go write big checks or take a lot of time doing this type of work. So anyway, so yeah, our harvest is coming to an end. The summer has gone by very fast. We've had a lot of different things going on, and it's just, it's time goes by faster every day. So I do appreciate your time. I appreciate, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe and like and share the video. And we'll catch you on the next one.